Never been in a band that wasn't, you know, a good time. When he walked out on the stage, I had never experienced crowd noise causing physical pain. I reckon that's about all I got to say about that. Like from the very, very early days, I've always been a huge fan of music. Some of my first memories of music were the Beatles. Oh La Di Da sticks in my head for some reason. It's a good one. And that naturally led to wanting to play. My mother, who is a left-handed person, had this very acoustic sitting in the closet for years. And when I was growing up, it sat in there in a big plastic bag, and I was always like, checking it out, man, you know. I'd get it out and bang on it, but, you know, I couldn't really make much sense of it. But still loved music, always playing music. Mom played music a lot in the house, like when I was preschool, you know, before school age, before kindergarten. And, you know, so I got exposed to a lot because of her and her love of, like, country music. And my older brother and sister, I'm the youngest of three, so they were, you know, huge. And especially my brother. My sister had more of the pop in her collection, but she was gone all the time, so I'd listen to her records and tapes. And my brother's the same way, and he turned me on to, like, you know, Rush and bands like that just, you know, became huge parts of my musical foundation. But yeah, that naturally led to wanting to play. I was going to do band, and band instruments are expensive. I wanted to play saxophone because I didn't have the piano training to play drums. So the next coolest thing was saxophone. And we went to sign up, and when we heard how much it was going to cost, my dad's like, well, hold on, my buddy's got a music store uptown. His guy he used to race motorcycles with, Jack Simmons. So we went up to Jack's music store, which I did not know existed, or I would have probably been loitering most of the time. And walked in there, and there was like walked in there to look for a horn, and Dad's talking to the gal that worked there, and there was a red Ibanez Destroyer sitting on the stand, and that's like a Gibson Explorer, candy apple red with a cream racing stripe down it. And my jaw hit the floor. And she goes, Daryl, I don't think he gives two shits about them horns. I think he'd just as soon play that guitar. And he's like, you rather play guitar, would you? We got one of them at home. I'm like, yeah, I think I would. So that's kind of where it all started. Next year, I think I got my first electric guitar for Christmas. Took lessons, had the strings flipped around right-handed. Been that way ever since. At one point when I was a little kid, I walked on this thing and broke some supports in it. And the great Rory Anderson, luthier over in Pekin, fixed it up for me, man. It's just been great ever since. It's got a great tone for this kind of stuff, too. You know, the slide stuff. It just sounds really good. So, yeah. But it just all snowballed from there, you know. Jamming with friends. Kenny Peak, one of the first other humans I jammed with. You were the first person that wasn't a guitar player that I jammed with.
Right.
And come over and jam some Twisted Sister and some Motley Crue, and you know, we had a great time. Did bad things, but anyway, yeah, bands. A lot of bands with kids my age, that, you know, most of the time didn't get out of the basement, and some great people. You know, good times. Phil Johns. What a talented guy that is. Just so many. Steve Grigsby, man.
Wow.
That dude, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, my friend. Oh, boy. So many of them. I don't know. We didn't jam. Chris Brees, he was in a few of those. But they were all coming up at the same time. But yeah, let's see. And a lot of those bands, most of them didn't really gig. Raging Wolf, we did a couple of Raging Wolf shows. That was cool. And it just, you know, it all kind of that kind of stuff for a few more years, you know. And as I got in high school, and I had known Bunky Walker. We all rode BMX bikes, and Bunky was like the stud BMX bike rider and a motorcycle rider and all that, and he played music too, and him and my older brother were friends. And I'd ride by Bunky's house, man. They'd be in there jamming. Him and Scott Stockman and Eddie Kelson and Darren Thompson. The first time I met all them guys was in Bunky's garage, and over by the hospital. And developed friendships with those guys, and when they heard me play, you know, I was a lot younger, but they were like, you're good. And so, like, Charlotte's Web was probably my first gigging band, you know, and that basically was because of Scott. They offered Scott the job. He went and jammed with them, and they offered Scott the job. Scott had been in a lot of bands with them, same guys. He was just like, nah, I think I'm gonna pass on this one, but I know a guy. And they gave him my name and went and jammed, and that was how Charlotte's Web started. Great band. Rest in peace, Eddie. We miss you, man. We miss you. Max Havoc from there. Max Havoc, man, a bunch of dicks in that band. Kenny Peak. My first band with Wes Simmons. And Scott Stockman pulled me into that. Wanted me to be a singer. I'm like, dude, you're nuts. I can't sing. Barely play guitar. It's like, you can sing. So he talked me into doing it. That started as an all-original project. There are tapes floating around somewhere that I probably just assumed nobody ever heard. But no, there's some stuff in there. Some of the stuff was pretty fun. But anyway, man, good times. You know, Kenny, you did that for a while until Kenny bailed, and got him one of the high-paying country gigs. And we met, we auditioned a few drummers, and one of the cats that auditioned was a dude named Joe Johnston. Wow, what a great drummer too, man, and he finished out that band with us. Good band. We tried to do a lot of writing too, you know. We didn't want to just be a cover band, you know. We wanted to write, and that's what it started as, and then Charlotte's Web kind of fell apart while we were jamming, so it's like, well, let's go ahead and go do some gigs. But yeah, great band, good times. Met the Hansmans in that band. Good times. Raymond and Jeff, you know, at the beginning of that band, we had a tour bus. We thought we were king shit, man. We had the rolling monolith of death. That thing was awesome, dude. It almost killed Scott and Wes. Great. I'd taken lessons. I'd actually used to hang out at Flores and Pekin quite a bit. And there was this dude that was a teacher there. His name was Bob Moulton. And he was like he was the baddest dude in town, you know. He was a smoking guitar player. And I told my wife now, girlfriend at the time, Michelle, hi, baby. I said, man, I'd really like to take lessons from that guy. I wish I could afford it. So for Christmas that year, she bought me guitar lessons from Bob. And, like, what, I need lessons? But now I was like really excited because I'm like, man, I need to go study with a master, you know. Lo and behold, about 6-8 months after I quit taking lessons from Bob, he called me up one day out of the blue and just said, hey, dude, I'm looking for a singer. Would you be interested in playing? Driving up to Pontiac and jamming with us. So I did. And of course I was. I was I was like, wow, I guess maybe he doesn't hate me. He doesn't think I suck. So anyway, I went and did that and met Gary Horry and Pete Ramsey. And that, you know, we kind of knew that was going to be a cover thing that was going to write. So it was starting as a cover thing. So I knew it was going to be a big time constraint, and I decided it was time for me to move on from Max Havoc. Wes did not take that well. But everything happens for a reason. I truly believe in fate. And that is actually where Wes decided, I'll show you, motherfucker, as he so eloquently puts it. And he started the Bogart Jones Band with Scott Stockman and Jeremy Rogers. See, I think the Lowe Brothers were in it. Chris Brees. I don't know. Anyway, they were good, real good. But I was off to Pontiac and working with those guys, and you know, it was a great time. You know, we had a lot of great gigs, mainly a cover band. We did write. Gary Horry became, you know, he really came out as a great songwriter, and he was the young dude, man. I for once wasn't the youngest guy in the band, you know. Once I joined Frankenstein, once we built that band. But you know, Gary really came out as kind of the chief songwriter in that band. You know, and songwriting's all about chemistry. It doesn't really matter how good the players are, at least from my experience. It's whether or not my crazy works with other people's crazies in the band, and we can make it, you know, make some good music happen from it. And you know, it just, you know, the chemistry really wasn't there, I guess, between Bob and I as songwriters. But you know, we did try. And that band went on for a while. That was a great time. We always had good crowds, you know, and we, you know, it was a good band. Really just, you know, pretty violent performances. good, you know, good heart. I mean, with a band like Frankenstein, we ain't doing no bluegrass on the, you know, on the set breaks or nothing. It was a metal band for sure. And you know, that was the band with, we all had 2 full stacks each, and, you know, the big drum kits and everything. But it was a lot of fun. Great band, and just amazing players, man, all the way around. And then that band went from, it went from there. I'd always been buddies with the guys in the band Jinx from Pekin. No, man, had been friends with them guys for a while. Actually, Mike and I lived together. Mike and I and Stuntman lived together. What's up, Jeff? Lived together for a little while in Pekin. And their drummer had left, and Mike decided he was going to play drums, and he needed somebody that could play guitar and sing, and asked me if I would be interested in it, because they had recorded a record with Brian West, was their drummer at the time. He's an incredibly good drummer, and they had done an album, Heads or Tails, and wanted to be able to go out and play shows to promote it. And I'm like, yeah, man, that'd be great. So we started that in tandem. I was still in Frankenstein. And because it was just going to be, we were just going to do original only shows, and I was excited for that, and the chemistry was a little better there with us as songwriters, I think. So it was a good fit, and Mike, You know, Brian West is one of the best drummers around here back in the day, and still he's doing very well. I think he's on Billboard. His band's doing very well. But he had moved on, and Mike decided he was going to play drums, following one of the better drummers I had ever seen around here, and he nailed it, man. He just killed it. We were doing complicated originals, odd time signatures. When we did covers, they were covers by bands like Rush and Dream Theater and Fate's Warning. And this cat just blew it out of the water, man. You know, man, wow, what an amazing talent Mike Lane is, man. And in Florida now, man, living his best life. I love that, man. But I've always been insanely jealous. Hard not to be. Have you seen him? But anyway, man, yeah, that was a good band. And when Frankenstein kind of fell apart, Jenks started going out and doing cover gigs, where we played probably a third originals and 2/3 covers to cover the whole night. And great band. That went on for a while. Jenks, man, what a good time. Some good brothers in that band. John Massoya on the bass. Hot Tub Johnny. Gary Wolford. Thwart you dumbass. Gotta give some love to Squid as well, man. We got Squid and Squid Lips Jr. actually. Chris Lancaster, man. Big time help for Bogart Jones band, man. Got us out to Sturgis, man. Love you. There were several versions of Bogart that went on and off. After the initial lineup of Bogart, I fell in love with it. I loved their music, and I loved Wes. Turned out to be a songwriting juggernaut, man. I mean, the guy just was writing these songs. I'm like, my goodness, that's a hit. That's a hit. Listen to that, man. That's great stuff. And he was right. He did show me, for sure. And I eventually worked my way into that band. And there were many. That was the band. We always we kept it all original. And you know, so I was still playing in other cover bands along the way as well. There were a couple in there with Wes. Fody Doe. He's got away with names. Got away with words. Fody Doe, that was Wes and Chad and myself and you, Kenny. And let's see. Like I said, with all the different versions of Bogart that went along at the time, it's a little foggy because the cover bands would kind of pop up from those groupings of people. And we'd just go, yeah, let's go out and play a few gigs. We all know up tunes. But, Star 69, great. That was the first band I played in with Don Mavis. And I met John Eason for the first time. We bonded on English humor. We're all big fans of English music, and you know, the Monty Python and Young Ones humor just kind of went along, you know, like peas and carrots with our musical tastes. That's a great band. Rest in peace, John. We lost John a few years ago, man. We're a brilliant drummer. And, thank God I was able to talk Donnie Mavis into coming to the Bogart Jones band later on. Man, what a great pairing that wound up being. I love playing with that guy. Let's see. Low Profile. That was a great band. Scott Stockman. Scott was fighting cancer at the time too, and still just played out of his skull every night. The Low Brothers, super. You know, Patrick Jenkins, my man Ray. You know that was a fun band. The Shake. The Shake was probably the best cover band I was ever in. No disrespect to anybody else. And I say that because there was, I felt like we could go into any situation and entertain the crowd. Whether it was a bunch of metalheads, a bunch of people who wanted country music, a bunch of people who wanted funk dance music. I mean, you know, people wanted hard rock and metal. It just didn't matter. That band could entertain just about anybody. And Mike Lane and the initial lineup, Shannon Wolf, man, that was my musical soulmate, man. Shannon turned me on to so much good music. What an amazingly talented human there. Like I said, of course, Mike Lane was in that band. And I mean, Rod Teeny. Rod-Teeny. The great Rod Teeny, man. What a talent there, man. Just one of the best entertainers, pound for pound. I mean, I've ever played with, man. Just a great entertainer. Lots of laughs with that lineup, man. What a good time that was. Oh, and the second generation that I was in of the Shake, Shannon left and moved on to better things, and Gary Horry came in, and that was another few years of some really good times and really good playing. Shane Train and Cody fucking Barrett came into play in that around that time too, which was you know. The fellas were very entertaining. Bubblegum Jack. The pop band thing's never really been my cup of tea. But Thomas Edwards, who I love dearly, asked me if I'd be interested in playing bass in that band. Brett and Jeff were leaving, so I knew they did well and all that. So I'm like, well, let's go check it out. And man, it wound up just being a blast. Yeah, I finally got to play in a band with Jeff Logsdon in that band. One of my heroes growing up for sure. Jeff still just blows my mind every time I hear him play. Eric Barley was in that band. Got to know him in that band. And then after doing that for a few years, Eric and Jeff left to go. They're big country music fans. They wanted to go do something more country, you know, which with Jeff and his banjo playing, you know, a perfect fit. On pedal steel. I think he plays pedal steel now too. My God, what a talented guy. George Herbst and Colt Caparoon wound up joining Bubblegum Jack. Another just couple of just mine. I've been so blessed, man. I've played with so many just amazing musicians. Just really blessed. But having those two guys in the band, you know, really kicked the energy up a notch. Got to give some love to brother Shandell Tassert. What a fantastic drummer, and, you know, did an amazing job with Bubblegum Jack. Always a good time, really good dude. One especially, you know, I remember that as being really a lot of fun. The gigs were a blast. Worked with the Hansmans all the time. We had a great time. Jeremy's like my little brother, you know. Warnie and Tony were my Pekin parents. I used to call them when I lived over there. They always made sure I ate and stuff like that. But, you know, what a great time in that band. And that band also is where I met Gary Richrath. Of course, you know, like everybody else around here, I grew up listening to REO Speedwagon and his guitar playing, you know, especially. And just his name, it just sounded so rock and roll, you know, kind of like Riff Raff or Witchcraft or, you know, so that's good, Gary Richrath. You know, what for sure starstruck. When I met him, we actually knew he was coming, and planned to set in with us. And he walked into the bar, we were on break, and the first person he saw was Tommy. And Tommy is like the easiest person in the world to talk to, for sure. He's so friendly. And Gary and Tommy were talking, and the break went on, and I got back up, was getting ready to go back up for the last set, And I'm like, Gary's standing there talking to Tommy, and I'm like behind Tommy, and Gary kind of keeps looking at me. I'm like, what's this yahoo want? And finally I get his attention. I'm like, Gary? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. Shook his hand. And I said, it's an honor to meet you. And he goes, why is that? It's like that. I said, because I cut my fucking teeth on your guitar licks. And he goes, oh, that's pretty cool, I guess. I'm like, oh, wow. So we went on and played the set. And in that band, I was bass player. But once Colt joined the band, and George played bass as well and loves to play bass. So he brought a DI bass rig along, and that allowed me to play guitar on some stuff. So we played a very dance-heavy set on either end, but in the middle of it, there were 3 songs that I played guitar on, and Colt and I would kind of cut heads. So it was a little bit of a showcase for me to play guitar on, and had a, couple of pretty blazing leads, and like I said, Colt and I would cut heads at one point. And I just remember this one particular lead, and this is one of my heroes is out there watching me, so I'm laying it on pretty thick, and I do this big scalar, ascending run up to this big orgasmic note, and I go to hit that orgasmic note, and I miss it by a half step. And I could just feel it. I'm bending everything I got to bend it and try to hit the damn note, and I kind of open my eyes, and I look up, and there's Gary looking at me laughing, like, missed it by that much. He just worded it across the room like, fuck you, Gary! Over the microphone. And that's kind of how our relationship went. It was like my friends. The closer I am to you, the more I'm going to screw around with you and be a smart ass. And that was me and Gary, and it was great, man. What a talented guy. We did a couple shows. He wound up coming up and setting in with us with Bubblegum Jack that night, and then one other night. And then we did another show where I was asked to fill in, for Barry and Exit. And another amazing player. I actually rehearsed with Gary for that, and that was pretty neat. First time we played Take It on the Run. We just rehearsed like 3 songs for this show with Exit that was at the Limelight, opening for Molly Hatchet. We knew there'd be a lot of people there. It was a good spot for, Gary to come out and blow the roof off the place, And we did Take It on the Run, where I was playing guitar with him. Before that, I'd always played bass when he'd sat in with Bubblegum Jack. And so we did, Take It on the Run. And Take It on the Run has a harmonized guitar solo in it, which in REO Speedwagon, there's only one guitar player, as everybody knows. And we got done with rehearsing the song for the first time, and we did the harmonized lead. And he looked at me and he goes, that's the first time that song's ever been played right. And I about, oh man, it still gives me chills when I think about it. Yeah, man, some fun times. And then after that, we wound up building the Gary Rich Rap Band, and we rehearsed for about 6 months or so. And then he, the health problems kind of started getting to Gary, and unfortunately we lost him not too long after that. But boy, it was a good band. And that was Wes and Tim. Wes Simmons and Timmy Fires, Tommy, George, myself, and Gary. And yeah, we rehearsed twice a week for about 6 months. Good times. Always had a good time with Gary. And those guys too. Just, you know, great players and wonderful people. After when Gary's health started bugging him, you know, we kind of, Timmy and Wes and I kind of rekindled the Bogart thing again. The Bogart Jones Band had gone on, off and on for a long, long time. I was not in the first version of it, but I think I was in every version after. I think at one point or another. But so at this point, I had gotten into home recording. This is what you see behind you here, and was able to. Wes and Tim and myself basically wrote, and I mean half the songs were already from the older batch of Bogart songs, and about half of them we wrote new as we were recording. Tim was recording them as he was learning them, or as he was writing his parts and recording at the same time. And then we had, I wound up doing 2 opposing guitar parts just because I like that kind of thing. And I think our first gig we did it as a 3-piece. And then after that we, Ty Bailey came in, Brian Larson and Leslie came in, and we did a few shows with that lineup, and all the while we're working on the record. I pretty well recorded all the guitars for it. Brian had stated that he wasn't really interested in being on the recording, so I just pretty well did it all myself. And we released a teaser for the album once we got it done. Kurt Caudill, man. Kurt. Bogart Jones Band owes a lot of its success to Kurt Caudill. You know, other than being just an amazing human and an amazing musician. You know, he was our social media dude, and he really, on the promotional end of things, you know, you got to do that stuff yourself before you can ever hire a manager or PR people, you know, and I mean, we were getting it done, you know. So anyway, Kurt puts this teaser reel together and puts it out, and my buddy Don Mavis that I played with in Star 69 happened to see it, and also happened to see I had a fuzz pedal, I think it was, for sale. So he called me about the fuzz pedal, and we were just chatting, kind of catching up a little bit, and he's like, hey man, if you guys decide ever you want another guitar player for Bogart. I said, well, as a matter of fact, we do. And then Sonny D came into the fold, and that was a damn good day.
Cocaine and cigarettes top the list of my regrets. All the shit I wish I'd never tried. The circus where I used to run, the stupid shit I've done so many times I probably should have died. Mama left the edge out on angel's wings. Papa paid the bills sometimes, guitar string. All of my perception, well, I can find how I'm blinded from the truth about tainted you.
I need to talk about Section 8. That was the first band with short-lived band. I wasn't in it very long anyway. They had plenty of success before me. First band with Evil T and Private Piles. Dave and Jeremy Jett, man. Jeremy's a Cantonite, you know, and good dude. We'd be good friends with him after that band. So yeah. Dirty Little Mimes. That was a great band. Gary from Crankenstein, you know, always killer. And my buddy Tony Higby, the only band I've been in with him. Another band, we didn't last too long, maybe a year or so, I think. But Tony moved on to far bigger and better things, moved to Nashville, and after kicking cancer's ass, he, started touring with Tom Kiefer from Cinderella and doing some work with Damon Johnson. His own band, Eastside Gamblers, just killer. Good stuff, man. He's a real deal right there, man. Love that dude. Any gig playing original music, I think's pretty cool usually, but Bogart had a lot of them, man. A lot of awesome gigs. The Sturgis shows all stick out in my mind. Opening for Blues Travelers, those guys were really cool to hang with. Los Lobos, there's a bunch of cool shows with them. The one, I don't know, I probably have to say the coolest show I ever did was the one I did, a band I wasn't even in, Exit, playing with them and Gary at the Limelight. We were treated like royalty from the second we walked into the door, and the show itself went great. Their song list was killer. Crowd loved it. A lot of Exit fans in Peoria, even though that band's really not been together in years. They're pretty legendary, Peoria, and I never experienced this before this show, but this was the show that we rehearsed with Gary. And when Gary walked out on the stage, there's video of this out on YouTube. When he walked out on the stage, I had never experienced crowd noise causing physical pain. If you watch that video, he's kind of a shot at me, and when they announce him, I point at him, and as soon as they said his name and he walked out on stage, I didn't even put my arm down. I just turned around and did an about face towards the back of the stage because the crowd noise was so loud that it hurt. And I had to turn around. I didn't want to go, but I had to turn around and stop it from hurting. And it's like, wow. I bet that's what the Beatles felt like every show. And it was like to experience something like that for I'm a machine operator, man. To experience that, that was pretty amazing. So.
Surprise! You're in for a fucking treat. You maybe only paid $20 for a ticket, huh? Fucking right. Welcome to Exitland, baby.
So that might have been the coolest show I ever did. My wedding reception was a pretty amazing show. All the Frankenstein guys in tuxes. Bunch of friends came out and played as a wedding gift. We're all broke musicians, man. So here's your wedding gift, man. They come out and played. Taxi came out and played. I think Raw Honey played. Split Personality played. From Macomb, our buddies over there. Yeah, that was what a crazy night that was. Man, there's been a lot of them, dude. There's been. Again, just very blessed to play in good bands all these years and be surrounded by killer musicians. And when you'd get a crowd, we could usually move them no matter what band, and you don't get them every night doing that kind of stuff. You don't get them every night doing any kind of music, but yeah, it sure helps when there's a lot of people there. Bubblegum Jack, oh geez, we had some shows that were just insane. Tommy walked on the crowd one night. That's not something most people can say they've ever done. Just, great crowds, crazy. Shake had some crazy gigs. Some of the early web gigs were just off the chain because we're in the Midwest, and on the coast, everybody was wearing spandex and big hair, and even over in Peoria, a lot of bands were already doing that, but for some reason around this area, we came out dressed like that, and everybody just went nuts over it. we had some pretty crazy gigs back then. You know, met a lot of lifelong friends playing clubs around this area and around Peoria County, and good times in Bloomington. You know, just a great area. You know, there's a lot of music going on for being in the middle of nowhere, kind of. You know, right now in Peoria there are open stages almost every night of the week, man, and how cool is that? My son's in most of it. Parker's killing it over there right now, man. That's great. Proud pop. Step Down was a great cover band. Mike Lane again. Gary Horry from the Frankenstein days. He was also a member of the Shake for a little while when I was in it. Let's see who else was in there. Cody Barra, CFB, the notorious CFB. And then let's see, there was, oh my God, there was so many of them. Right after that, the Unhandsome Devils. It's kind of started out as Braille. We did a Braille show, and then it turned into the Unhandsome Devils. Was in that for a little while. Started that, moved on. I went through a flighty period for sure. Started a few bands, and they just didn't pan out for whatever reasons, you know. For me personally, you know. But you know, still great times, man. Anytime. I've never been in a band that wasn't, you know, a good time. The Musical Prostitutes, one of the more recent ones. My Brother from Another Mother, Troy Dean Mackey, the legend. Yeah, that's one you have to do, for sure, Kenny.
Already planning on it.
All right, you better get Troy Dean on there. Corey Piles, Evil T. Yeah, man, that was a fun band. We had a great set list. And Mackie just, my God, what a singer, man. He likes to credit me with getting him started singing, but he's just a natural, man. I mean, that dude. And people walk in and see him, and then they hear him, and you just see the looks on their face. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe it just doesn't look like that voice would come out of that dude. I'm sure that's kind of similar for me now too, but don't exactly look the part like I once did. But that shit don't matter at all. Yeah, I think that's about it. Gotta mention the late great J.C. Clure that was in Charlotte's Web with us for a while when we were at the height of our popularity. The summer scam days, as we called it. John Bailey. What up, John?
Action.
Legends. Man. As I've said a few times in this, I've just been so blessed to be able to play with some of just the most incredible musicians. So I gotta start with that, and I have a list in my hand because my brains are tapioca nowadays. And let's just start by saying anyone that I've ever played with, thank you. I learned something from everybody. I learned things from my students, regardless of skill level. But the people I've played with, I mean, just have, you know, I just can't even begin to express the gratitude. So thank you. Each and every one of you I've learned so much from. Maybe it was what not to do. But no, I'm just kidding. You know, I'm just so blessed in that right. I'm also incredibly blessed for my family. Without my wife, Michelle, I have no idea where I would be. Probably dead. My son, Ian, my youngest, man, he's streaming working like a dog, and like my biggest fan, man. I mean, he's just, and I'm great kid, man. My oldest boy, Parker, killing it, man. He's playing with everybody and their brother in Peoria, and just really becoming an amazing musician. He, in my opinion, has eclipsed me already, and shall continue to grow as he goes. I have to mention this guy. I don't know him personally other than Facebook friends, but David Hoffman, man, jazz trumpeter, toured with Ray Charles. I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that, and you know, that is somebody I would just love to sit and hear tell stories. That would be a guy, if you can get him. Of course, ain't no little about that, man. That's Ray Charles. Mike Nichols, not a musician per se, but he taught Scott and I and Wes and everybody around us that, you know, you just do it. When it's time to make a record, you just do it. Mike really wasn't not a gigging musician or anything like that, and he had a record out before any of us did. And Dweezil Zappa even cameoed on it, man. Are you kidding me? How cool is that? Big inspiration to me. Another just as big of an inspiration, man, Ed Carper. Ed was the first guy I ever saw have a home recording studio, and Troy and I, Mackie and I, man, we used to hang out over in Ed's basement all the time. Learned so much from him. I was so blessed when I got into this to be able to record an album for him, and he's just a genius, man. At Ed Records, you know, come on, dude. How cool is that? Some other people I gotta mention, man. The Brown Brothers from Steady Flow, Ty and Tanner, man. Wow, how good, man. That new record is just off the charts good. I'm pretty sure Tanner did that himself. I think, I don't know for sure, but I've been told that, and wow, talk about unbelievable talent. And a lot of the Peoria crew, man, you know, Roy Ponce, Mike Miller, Aaron Miller, you know, Stumpo and Russell Miller, you know, a lot of Millers in there. Rockin' Billy, man, Dave Chaston. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There's no way in hell I could even begin to name all the people I look up to. Silas Gilman, is that it? Silas Gilman? Silas Gilman. What an incredible, what a mind-bending talent, man. That dude, the way he hears things, I would love to pick that cat's brain. Not that I would be able to understand anything I saw in there, but it would be so fun to play with that guy. What an amazing artist. Some of the more local folks from around Canton, I got to shout out Jeremy Rogers. Yeah, I learned a lot from that dude. One of my best friends in the world, and an incredible player, and what a great businessman. I mean, he you know, great player, great singer. And you know, his dad Jimmy, man, and Apples and Trees, man. They were, you know, wonderful people and good friends. Mark Chatterton, Lynn Garrett, Chris Brees, man, all them guys just blow me away. So many more. I could go on and on with the talent in this town. I have to mention Deborah Odney. My goodness, and what she did when she was young. You know, she had a hit. I believe JC was involved with that. I think JC was on that the second booth, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Third booth.
Third booth. That's right. I knew it was one of them booths. Great stuff. Deb, and what Deb did with my kids. I mean, to see both my sons in a band together on stage in a professional setup. You know, that was in a theater with the Hansmans running sound and lights. How freaking cool! That was like one of them proud papa moments to see both my boys playing on stage together. Ian, that I mentioned earlier, I should say, is not a full-time musician per se, but he does play, and he plays really well. And when he does his streams and all that, he'll do that stuff. That he was a vocalist in those, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was like looking at myself and a younger self in a mirror. It's insane. But yeah, Deb, thank you for that. That's a moment that I'll never forget, seeing those two. And without Deb Rodney, that probably would have never happened. And not to mention just the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids that she has taught. An inspiration to me wanting to teach as well, for sure. I got to talk about Bobette Boggs for a second, man. Just give her a shout out and some love. She has been there since the early days of Charlotte's Web, playing over in Iowa. Some crazy times. And still out there rocking today. Jamming now with the great, with the legend Troy Dean Mackey in Plastic Green Army Man. Much love. Gotta give some love to Josh Thompson, man. Dude, that guy is killing it with his business and and with his music, man. Just what an incredible talent and a good friend. Gotta give some love to Dirk too. I gotta give a shout out to Bob Long, man. Another guy in this town that it has just always. If there was a show in Canton, Bob probably had something to do with it. Not a musician per se, but as musicians in this area, we all owe Bob Long a lot. He would go above and beyond the call of duty no matter what's going on. I got to give a shout out to Eric Matthews, the late Eric Matthews. Eric, was another dude I would look up to, especially when I was young, for advice and things like that on music. He knew what was going on. There are, again, just so many. I could go on and on about the people I've played with over the years, but ain't nobody got time for that. But I do have to mention Kenny Peak. That's right. Kenny's like the hardest working man in show business around here, and here, with this Little Legends and everything else he does in the theater and all that, and just trying to helping people get going. He don't have to do that. He does it out of the goodness of his heart because he's a beautiful human. So, thank you, Kenny. Man, a good Jimmy Rogers story. A legend had it that when I was getting ready to join Charlotte's Web as a spry young 15-year-old stick, my dad was a cop in Canton for years, and he supposedly pulled Jimmy over and was like, man, he wants to go jam with Bunky and all these guys, and I don't know, man. I know they're probably partying and stuff. And he's like, do you think he'd be all right? You think I should let him do it? Something to that effect. And Jimmy was like, Daryl, you just gotta let him play. You just gotta let him play, man. So that's how the legend goes. I wasn't there, but thanks, Jimmy. I think.